Have you ever wondered why your cat pulls away every time you try to cuddle, even when you're sure they love you? In this video, you'll discover the real reason your cat avoids closeness and 3 scientifically proven ways to fix this behavior. Reason 1. They're actually afraid of you. It's not easy to admit, but one of the most heartbreaking reasons a cat may keep their distance is because, deep down, they're afraid of you. This doesn't mean you've been cruel or abusive. Fear can come from much subtler, often accidental moments. Maybe you shouted during a frustrating moment. Maybe you picked them up too suddenly, stepped on their tail, or dropped something loud near them. These incidents may seem minor to you, but to a cat, who experiences the world through heightened senses and instinctive caution, they can leave deep emotional imprints. Cats are incredibly observant creatures. They form associations through smells, tones, and patterns, not words. A loud voice, heavy footsteps, or a fast-approaching hand can all trigger anxiety. They remember the context around a frightening moment, the scent you wore that day, the sound in your voice, the space in which it happened, and those associations can linger for a long time. If your cat routinely avoids eye contact, darts away when you enter a room, or stays just out of arm's reach, they may see you as unpredictable. Not because you've done anything deliberately wrong, but because, from their perspective, you feel like a risk. And here's the hardest part. They're not mad. They're not holding a grudge. What you're seeing isn't spite. It's self-protection. A cat's world is built on feeling secure in their surroundings. If they don't feel emotionally or physically safe near someone, they'll pull away, not because they hate you, but because they're unsure what you'll do next. The good news? That fear is not fixed. It can shift with patience, empathy, and consistent behavior. You don't rebuild trust through grand gestures. You rebuild it through repetition. Sit quietly near them without reaching out. Let them approach on their own time. Speak in a calm, soothing voice, especially when they're nearby. Move slowly. Create a routine that feels predictable and peaceful. And most importantly, respect their boundaries, even if you're eager for affection. Over time, they'll start to notice the change. They'll begin to associate your presence with calm instead of chaos. The flinches will soften, the distance will shrink, and eventually, fear can turn into curiosity, and then, beautifully, into trust. Because when a cat chooses to trust you again after being afraid, it's one of the most profound, silent acts of forgiveness you'll ever witness. Reason 2. They weren't socialized properly as a kitten. When a cat seems emotionally distant, avoids cuddles, or doesn't seek out human touch, it's easy to assume they're cold or uninterested. But often, their aloofness isn't a choice. It's a result of their earliest experiences. The first few weeks of a kitten's life are a critical window, a short but powerful phase where their brain begins wiring itself around what's normal. If during that time they aren't gently handled by humans, spoken to, or allowed to explore safe affection, they miss out on one of the most important emotional lessons: that people can be trusted. Cats who were born outdoors, rescued late, or taken from their mothers too soon may grow up with no real understanding of human closeness. Affection doesn't come naturally to them, not because they don't want it, but because it feels alien. A soft hand reaching out to pet them might register as a threat instead of a comfort. Being held could trigger panic, not peace. Even a gentle voice might be startling if they didn't grow up hearing it regularly. These cats aren't rejecting you. They're navigating an emotional landscape they were never taught how to understand. You might see this in subtle ways: a hesitation when you enter the room, a slow blink that doesn't quite complete, a tendency to sit nearby but never on you. They're watching, learning, testing the waters. And that means there's hope. Because while early socialization is ideal, it's not the only path to trust. With consistency, patience, and a gentle rhythm of routine, even the most unsure cat can begin to open up. Start with quiet moments. Let them come to you, even if it's just to sit a few feet away. Avoid eye contact and sudden movements at first. Offer soft-spoken words without expecting a response. Over time, touch can be introduced, perhaps just a stroke along the back when they're especially calm. Let grooming or feeding become familiar bonding rituals. What you're doing is teaching a new emotional language, one they never got to learn in kittenhood. And most importantly, don't rush the process. Love, for these cats, is not a single breakthrough. It's the quiet repetition of safety over and over again. They need to see, every day that you mean no harm, that your presence is a promise of peace, not pressure. And when they finally choose to lean into you, even just for a second, it's not just affection, it's a victory years in the making. Reason 3. You're ignoring their body language. Cats may not speak our language, but they're communicating with us constantly. We just have to know how to listen with our eyes. Unlike dogs, who often wear their emotions on their sleeves, cats are more subtle, more refined in how they express themselves. Every flick of the tail, twitch of the whiskers, or shift in posture is a message. And when those messages go unnoticed or dismissed, cats don't get louder, they retreat. Flattened ears can signal discomfort or fear. A tail swishing rapidly back and forth, that's irritation, not excitement. Dilated pupils in a brightly lit room, that could mean they're overstimulated or anxious. These are not random movements. They're your cat's way of saying, please slow down. I need space. And when we ignore these cues, when we reach to pet them in the middle of a zoomy session, or try to snuggle when their posture stiffens, we aren't just missing a signal. We're unintentionally telling them, I don't hear you. Over time, this miscommunication builds emotional distance. A cat that feels unheard will often stop trying. They may flinch when you reach out, avoid your lap, or even leave the room when you approach, not out of dislike, but from self-preservation. From their perspective, your affection becomes unpredictable, and that unpredictability chips away at trust. But the beautiful thing about feline communication is that once you start paying attention, the messages become clearer. You'll begin to notice how their ears tilt toward your voice when they're calm, or how a slow, sweeping tail indicates contentment. You'll recognize the difference between a playful crouch and a defensive one. And once your cat sees that you understand these signs, that you're responding to their no as much as their yes, their whole energy begins to shift. Respect is everything to a cat, and respecting their signals, especially the quiet, subtle ones, is the foundation of a deeper relationship. When your cat realizes you're someone who listens without pushing, who gives them space when they ask for it, they'll begin offering you affection more freely. Because to a cat, trust isn't given. It's earned moment by moment, gesture by gesture. So the next time you want to cuddle, pause first. Watch their tail. Check their ears. Look into their eyes. If the signs say not now, honor that. Wait for them to come to you. And when they do, it won't just be a cuddle. It will be a gift of trust, given willingly because they know you'll always hear what they're saying, even when no words are spoken. Reason 4. Your petting style feels overwhelming. It's a common mistake, especially for people who've had dogs their whole lives. You reach out to show love, your hand moving confidently, maybe even enthusiastically, across your cat's back or belly. But instead of melting into your touch, your cat suddenly stiffens, pulls away, or gives you a warning flick of the tail. And just like that, the connection breaks. The truth is, cats experience touch very differently than dogs, or even than humans expect. To them, petting isn't about pressure or dominance. It's about trust, rhythm, and respect for their hypersensitive bodies. Cats are neurologically wired to feel everything. Their fur isn't just soft, it's full of nerve endings. Even small changes in pressure or direction can feel intense. When you stroke against the grain of their fur, pat them rapidly, or dive straight for vulnerable areas like their belly or paws, they may not see it as affection. They may feel invaded. Even petting that's too long or too unpredictable, firm one moment, light the next, can be confusing and overstimulating. Instead of pleasure, your touch becomes a signal to escape. Most cats prefer light, slow strokes that follow the natural direction of their fur. The sweet spots, cheeks, chin, behind the ears, and sometimes the base of the tail. These areas are packed with scent glands and are commonly used for social bonding between cats. When you gently scratch or rub there, you're participating in their language of closeness. It's not about covering their whole body with your affection. It's about making a meaningful, precise connection in the spots that bring comfort. But no two cats are the same. Some may tolerate longer sessions. Others might only want a few seconds before needing a break. And that's why observation is everything. Watch their body language closely. Do they lean into your hand or subtly pull away? Are their eyes soft or wide? Is their tail still or twitching with irritation? Do they purr, or do their ears start turning sideways like radar? These signals are clear if you're willing to listen. And the more you adjust based on their feedback, the safer and more understood they feel in your presence. When a cat trusts you with touch, it's not just about physical comfort. It's emotional vulnerability. You're entering their intimate space, and how you behave there determines whether they see you as a soothing companion or an overwhelming intruder. Refine your petting technique, slow it down, and treat each interaction like a quiet conversation, not a performance. Because when your cat realizes that your hands speak their language, they won't run from them. They'll seek them out, again and again. Reason 5. They're overstimulated by noise, smells, or touch. Imagine trying to relax while alarms are going off, unfamiliar scents are flooding the air, and sudden movements keep happening around you. That's often what the world feels like for a cat in a busy or unpredictable environment. Cats may look serene on the surface, but internally, they're highly tuned to every sensory detail around them. Their ears catch even the faintest rustle, their noses detect the subtlest of scent changes, and their skin reacts to the lightest touch. When all these senses are triggered at once, by loud sounds, strong smells, or constant activity, their nervous system flips into high alert. And in that state, affection becomes the last thing on their mind. You might notice them becoming jumpy, darting under furniture, or simply retreating to a quiet room. It's not rejection, it's a protective response. A cat that seems standoffish may actually be overwhelmed. Common triggers include blaring TVs, energetic children, barking dogs, strong perfumes, cleaning sprays, or even something as subtle as switching laundry detergents. Rearranging the furniture, bringing home a guest, or adding a new pet to the household can also push a sensitive cat into sensory overload. They crave familiarity. When the environment constantly changes or feels too intense, their guard goes up and stays up. Even physical affection can become overwhelming. If your cat is already overstimulated, a simple pet on the back might feel like too much. You might see a sudden tail flick, a swat, or them walking away mid-cuddle. Again, this doesn't mean they dislike you. It means their system is maxed out. And like us after a stressful day, they need time and space to decompress. What helps? Creating a sanctuary, a space where your cat can reset their senses. Think soft lighting, cozy nooks, consistent smells, and minimal noise. Add a warm blanket, a high perch, or a spot near a sunny window. Consider calming background sounds like nature playlists or white noise. These subtle environmental tweaks can make a massive difference in how safe your cat feels. And once they feel that safety, when the sensory chaos fades into calm, they often begin to seek closeness on their own terms. Respecting their need for quiet doesn't push them away, it invites them in. When your cat realizes they don't have to defend themselves from their surroundings, they let down their emotional armor. And that's when they'll surprise you, gently hopping into your lap, curling beside you on the couch, or leaning into your hand for a slow, quiet pet. Not because you asked, but because they finally feel ready. Reason 6. Cuddling might be painful due to health issues. Cats are often described as mysterious, but one of their most remarkable traits is also their most dangerous. They're incredibly good at hiding pain. It's a survival instinct, one passed down from their wild ancestors who knew that showing weakness could make them vulnerable. So when your cat suddenly stops cuddling, flinches at your touch, or seems less physically affectionate, it's easy to mistake it for emotional withdrawal. But in many cases, they're not being distant, they're in discomfort. Imagine being touched on a bruised shoulder or hugged with a sore back. It wouldn't feel comforting. It would feel unbearable. Cats experience this too, especially as they age. Arthritis in their joints, dental pain from inflamed gums, gastrointestinal bloating, sore muscles, itchy skin, or even residual pain from an old injury can all make physical closeness difficult. If your cat once loved curling up on your chest or being held in your arms, but now avoids those interactions, it might not be a change in personality. It could be a silent cry for help. One of the most telling signs is if your cat reacts defensively when a specific area is touched. Do they pull away when you stroke their back or hiss when you lift them under the belly? Do they shift restlessly in your lap instead of settling down? These are gentle warnings, not of annoyance, but of pain. And the longer it goes unnoticed, the more likely it is that they'll begin associating your affection with discomfort. That's why vigilance matters. Regular vet checkups, especially as your cat ages, are essential. Even more crucial is your ability to spot changes in behavior. a drop in energy, unusual hiding, a change in grooming habits, or reluctance to jump onto favorite surfaces. All of these can signal underlying health problems. The sooner you notice and seek help, the sooner your cat can begin to feel like themselves again. Treating the cause, whether through medication, dietary changes, or environmental adjustments like softer bedding or ramps, can have a profound emotional effect. Because once the pain is gone, your cat's trust in touch begins to return. You may find them curling back into your lap, brushing against your legs, or sleeping beside you the way they used to. Not because they're in a better mood, but because they finally feel safe in their own body again. Reason 7. They simply have a more independent personality. It's a common dream. Your cat curled up in your lap, purring softly, completely relaxed in your arms. But what if your cat doesn't do that? Not because they're afraid or unhappy, but simply because they don't want to. The truth is, not every cat is built for cuddling, and that's not a flaw. It's a beautiful part of their individuality. Just like people, cats exist on a personality spectrum. Some are social butterflies who crave constant contact, while others are quiet observers, watching, following, even loving from a distance. Their temperament is shaped by a mix of genetics, early socialization, and life experience. A cat raised with frequent human contact may be more physically affectionate, while another born in a feral colony or raised with minimal handling might grow up valuing space over snuggles. But neither one is less loving. They simply show affection in different ways. Your independent cat might never sit on your lap or sleep curled under your chin, but that doesn't mean they don't adore you. Their version of "I love you" might come in the form of following you from room to room like a silent shadow. It might be the gentle bump of their head against your ankle, the quiet way they settle near you instead of on you, or the fact that they always seem to appear when you're feeling low. These gestures are subtle, yes, but they're rich with meaning if you know how to see them. What's important is to accept and celebrate who they are, rather than try to mold them into something they're not. Pushing for physical affection, coaxing them into your lap, picking them up when they're not in the mood, or constantly trying to initiate cuddles can backfire. For an independent cat, these actions don't feel like love, they feel like pressure. And the more pressure they feel, the more they'll instinctively withdraw. Instead, let your love be quiet and steady. Speak gently when they're near. Offer your hand instead of reaching out suddenly. Sit still and let them choose how close they want to be. Over time, they'll start associating your presence with peace rather than expectation. And the most amazing thing? They may begin to offer affection on their own terms, not because they've changed, but because you've given them the freedom to trust. 3 scientifically proven ways to fix this behavior. Number 1. Learn to read and respect their signals. Cats may not speak our language, but they're communicating all the time, and often with extraordinary clarity. The key to earning their affection isn't found in treats or toys. It begins with truly understanding their subtle signals. Every flick of a tail, shift of the ears, soft purr, or moment of retreat is part of an ongoing dialogue your cat is trying to have with you. And the more fluently you learn to listen with your eyes and instincts, the closer your relationship will become. When your cat leans into your hand, half closes their eyes, or softly bumps their head against you, they're not just being cute. They're opening a window of trust. These are green lights, invitations for closeness. On the other hand, if their ears start angling sideways like radar, their tail begins to twitch at the tip, or their muscles tighten under your hand, these are yellow lights. Proceed with caution. Pushing through those warning signs doesn't just end the cuddle session. It tells your cat that their boundaries aren't being respected. And that's where so many misunderstandings begin. We often assume that because our intentions are loving, our actions will be received that way. But for a cat, how you respond to their body language speaks louder than anything else. When they pull away and you let them go without frustration or guilt, you're telling them, "I hear you. Your comfort matters." That moment of quiet respect does more to build trust than a dozen forced cuddle attempts ever could. It's also important to remember that your cat's signals can evolve over time. A gesture that once meant no might become a cautious maybe later on. That's why observing their microbehaviors, blinking, posture shifts, whisker positions, can feel like decoding a new language. But the reward for learning that language? A cat who sees you not just as a caretaker, but as a partner in emotional safety. Number 2. Create a calm, trust-building environment. Cats don't bond in chaos, they bond in calm. In fact, one of the most powerful ways to invite a cat into your emotional space is by shaping the physical space they live in. Their surroundings speak louder than your words ever could. A noisy home, unpredictable energy, or a space full of sudden movements can leave your cat in a constant state of low-level anxiety. And when their mind is busy scanning for danger or disruptions, there's simply no room left for closeness. Imagine being on edge all day, never knowing when a loud bang, a rushing child, or a fast-approaching hand might interrupt your peace. That's how many cats feel in environments that aren't designed with their comfort in mind. They might hide, seem aloof, or avoid affection, not because they don't love you, but because they've never been given the chance to truly exhale. In those moments, your lap isn't a safe haven. It's one more unpredictable place in a world that already feels overwhelming. That's why creating a calm, trust-nurturing environment isn't just helpful, it's transformative. Start by designating quiet zones in your home. Choose a sun-drenched corner, a shelf near a window, or a tucked-away spot under a desk, and turn it into a cozy retreat. Add a plush blanket, a familiar scent, even an old shirt of yours, and keep lighting soft and warm. Avoid harsh overhead lights and jarring sounds. Opt instead for natural sunlight and gentle background music or silence. And then, just be there. Not to pet, not to talk, just to exist. Sit nearby with a book, scroll on your phone, or simply breathe. Let your cat feel your presence without pressure. It may take days, weeks, or even longer, but eventually, your cat will begin to associate your stillness with safety. You're not demanding affection, you're offering emotional sanctuary. Number 3. Let Cuddles be their idea, not yours. Of all the truths about living with a cat, this one might be the hardest for humans to accept. Love from a cat can't be demanded, it must be invited. Unlike dogs, who often offer affection freely and enthusiastically, cats are more reserved, more deliberate. Their love isn't loud. It's subtle, earned, and deeply personal. And when it comes to cuddling, it has to be their choice. Always. It's tempting to scoop them up when they look adorable or try to nuzzle them into your lap because you're craving closeness. But if your cat isn't ready, if they're unsure, overstimulated, or simply not in the mood, it can make them retreat emotionally. They may start associating your attention with discomfort or unpredictability, which can damage the trust you've worked so hard to build. Instead, offer your presence, not your pressure. Let your cat come to you on their own timeline. Sit quietly in their favorite room. Extend your hand and see if they choose to rub against it. If they hop onto the couch beside you, acknowledge them with a soft word or a slow blink. And if they place a paw on your leg or curl beside you, that's a monumental gesture. Treat it with reverence. These moments, when they choose to bridge the space between you, are full of meaning. And how you respond in those quiet seconds teaches them whether your affection feels safe. Don't grab. Don't lift. Don't interrupt the moment by rushing to hold them tighter. Just be still. Be warm. Be worthy of their trust. A gentle whisper, a stroke on the cheek, or even a small treat placed nearby can say, "Thank you for choosing me." Over time, these small, respectful interactions add up. What begins as a brief nuzzle might turn into a lazy sprawl beside you. One day you'll realize your cat is not just near you, but on you. Head resting on your lap, paws tucked in, eyes closed in total peace. Not because you asked, but because you waited. And in that waiting, you created the one thing cats need most: the freedom to choose love on their terms.